Okay, perfect. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for gathering together apart. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. Welcome to our Atlanta Contemporary Open Studios with Marc Brotherton. So I'm just going to read Marc's bio, and then he's going to go through our tour. And I'm just admitting people, by the way, as I go too, so I apologize. But should you have any questions, please just go ahead and feel free to leave them in the chat. So once Marc is done with his tour, we'll kind of do a Q&A. So Marc Brotherton is currently an artist in residence at Atlanta Contemporary. He regularly exhibits his work in solo and group exhibitions at museums, art centers, and art fairs throughout the United States. Brotherton has exhibited at White Columns, Causey Contemporary Fine Art, George Billis Contemporary, the Brooklyn Arts Council, the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia, Hathaway Gallery, Day and Night Projects, Sandler Hudson, and Kiang Gallery. Brotherton received his MFA in painting and drawing from the City University of New York at Brooklyn College in New York City, and his BFA from the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. I'm going to read a brief statement that Marc wrote with regards to his work. Kill screen painting is best thought about as a metaphor. Brotherton plays with images and language that reference the digital screen. Subtle nuance and radical shifts in paint application move throughout his work. He attempts to activate the viewer utilizing a painting platform. Some would say that there is a need for kill screen painting today. Kill screen painting to fight the machine. Kill screen painting for never giving up. Kill screen painting to help heal the psyche. Kill screen painting to help make you more attractive. Kill screen painting for going beyond.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess I don't have a timer here. So just when I guess, I get closer to 10 minutes to the end, or, 8 minutes to the end, just give me a heads up.
Sure.
And then we can take questions and answers. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I just wanted to express my solidarity with my fellow citizens, grieving and expressing outrage over violence against our African-American brothers and sisters. And additionally, to grieve with my fellow U.S. and world citizens who continue to suffer loss during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I would also like to thank the hardworking folks at the Atlanta Contemporary for their unwavering support, and to you, the viewer, for showing up for this virtual open studio. And just I'll say it up front here, but you can always visit my website, marcbrotherton.com, to help support me and my family and the work that I make. And if you're interested in purchasing, just send an email request for prices, and I'll be happy to share this with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through my studio, and I'm going to stop at different paintings and just kind of hover over them and just mention a few things. All right, so I'm going to flip the camera here, and we're going to start over here with the first one. So these are all newer paintings that I have been working on the last couple of months. Some of them are old and then had newer applications of paint put on top, and some of them they've just, they're fresh. They've happened much quicker. And I like to stamp my name instead of signing it. It gives it more of an authentic, in my opinion, quality. So these are all acrylic. This is acrylic on canvas. Dimensions on this one is 20 inches by 16 inches. And there are different applications of paint, as you're probably noticing. This one is a little smaller. This is a, 12 by 9. And it is also acrylic on canvas. And this one actually has text in it that I actually used press-on acrylic text lettering. So these are all part of an ongoing series that I've been making. The title of this series is called Kill Screen. And some of you may know what kill screen means, some of you may not. Really, it's not that important to know the original meaning of kill screen, because I think it's more interesting to think of it in its non-known form. And obviously these aren't screens, but in a lot of ways they are similar to screens, because ancient weaving, if you will, this canvas is a form of weaving, and weavings have a x-axis and a y-axis, the same way that a screen would have an x-axis and a y-axis. So it seems logical to use the idea of a screen. And of course, screens, we're on a screen right now, are very ubiquitous to our time. So I use it as a way to sort of engage the viewer. And then, of course, there are other things going on to hopefully keep your attention. And you can see that these motifs of sort of color bars, almost as if it's getting hotter or the temperature's rising, and that could be a metaphor for the pandemic, or it could be a metaphor for people's frustration with all kinds of current events that are happening, not only the pandemic, but also the violence against African Americans that are being brought out every day, unfortunately. And also, it's getting warmer in my studio. So they have many readings, if you will. And I also like the reference that goes back to, say, early abstraction. And I think that video games or digital screens use similar iconography and similar shapes as early abstraction. So I like that tie-in, but it also can go back and be more about a history. So there's lots of sort of shapes that could be taken as existing in a time before us, many thousands of years before us. This shape here is a very ancient shape. It could be a ziggurat. It could be an Atari attacking shooter. But I like to use it as a symbol to symbolize what I'm trying to do here. And this symbol is easily worded and used individually. It doesn't have to mean anything particular. It could be something specific, or it could be something general. So this one's a lot bigger. This painting here is also acrylic on canvas, and it is 48 inches by 36 inches. And it also has a little bit of cardboard. And if I can get in here, maybe you can see the texture from the side. So this is kind of raised. And I do a lot of pouring, and I use a lot of alternative practices, if you will. I guess they're not so alternative anymore, but alternative to the traditional art school painting one class, for example. So I use spray paint. I use acrylic. A lot of times I use glitter, or I'll use found objects. I may paint on a towel. I may paint on a rag. I may paint on canvas, paper. Moving along here. I do a lot of different techniques. Sometimes I do a stamping technique. I use a lot of tape. I also freehand a lot. I oftentimes will take paint, pour it out, let it dry, peel it off, and then affix it. And that's what this yellow disc is here. And then I cut out the ziggurat shape. So I like to be as free as I can. And this also has some oil paint in it. So this is primarily acrylic and on canvas, but it also is oil. So there's some texture under here. So this here is oil. And I just like the texture of oil, but I also like the effect that I'm giving, sort of alludes to the idea of something changing or being sort of disfigured. Also, it kind of has like a skin that I really like too. So it has a lot of connotations, perhaps. There's a lot of overlapping. So this one has a lot of layering. And this one was a really fun one. I did a few of these. This is primarily acrylic, but it also has oil. And then it has, you can see it okay here. It has pens, markers, a spray can cap. It has bits of dried oil. And then this is actually a paint packet that I got from Utrecht. Looks like a little ravioli. Anyway, I was just thinking about all the different ways that you and means that you use to make art. And these were pens and pencils that I've used to draw with, and of course paint to paint with. So this is just sort of a way to activate the painting using the tools in which to actually make art. But then also they create line, they create shape, they create texture. So it's just kind of a fun. And then I put some vinyl text in there. It says S. No, I'm doing it. E A R C H I N G. So searching. This one's a pretty bright painting. Smaller, 12 by 11. Sorry, 12 by 9. And it is also acrylic on canvas. A lot of times I just get the really inexpensive canvases. Like this one, you can get a pack of 8, I think it is, for $10 or $12 when they're on sale. Really good price. But I oftentimes will take extra strips of canvas that I have left over and I'll stretch it on top. So it's got a nice double support. And it also gives it a different feel. It makes it seem less cheap and more kind of robust. And it gives a little extra structure so I can apply thicker pieces of paint, perhaps. This is also a smaller painting. So these next 3 that we're going to look at are 9 by 12, or sorry, 12 by 9, 12 vertical, 9 horizontal. Again, primarily acrylic on canvas. And you can see bits of raw canvas underneath. But also there's a blob of oil paint that I have placed a piece of cut out acrylic into, and then smushed it into the paint. So the paint acts like glue and it holds it there. And then this isn't really the best angle, but that kind of fuzzy background is from spray paint. And this one has a lot of layering, so there are many layers on here. Also acrylic on canvas is 100% acrylic on canvas. 12 by 9 as well. And this one is also acrylic on canvas. And the ones you're seeing today, plus many, many more, are on my website, mostly completed. It's an ongoing love affair I have with my website, but it takes a while sometimes to get everything updated. But these are on there. If you'd like to take a closer look, you may. So those are the 3 here, and then I've got some on this table here. These are also acrylic, but then there's some oil. So this area here, these black rectangles and squares are oil paint. And I use oil paint not just for the color, but also for the texture. So the oil paint leaves peaks and valleys a lot more than acrylic. Acrylic tends to flatten out. So I like the way you can create movement through texture. And so there's these kind of subtle lines that are directional on the black. And then this one kind of has it as well. This is a smaller one, 12 by 9. And the black, again, is oil. Everything else is acrylic. And this one is acrylic with the black being oil. So the majority of it is acrylic, but there is some oil on there. And again, it shows the movement with the lines. And then, of course, there's other kinds of movement as well.
Mark, we have a question from Jordan, and it's just so you know, it's 1219.
Okay.
But Jordan wanted to know, are there any artists that you feel like your work is in, quote, conversation with? And she's thinking mostly of artists that would be labeled as contemporary or living.
That's a good question. Yeah, I feel like my work is in conversation with a lot of artists. Some of my favorite artists are living, but also some of them are dead. But yes, I could mention someone named Chris Martin, who's one of my favorite painters, Joyce Pensato. I feel like, contemporary abstraction, I'm in that dialogue. People in Atlanta, I admire quite a few artists, Craig Drennan, Ron Saunders, and all the folks here at the Contemporary. There's some amazing painters and artists here as well. So yeah, I feel like my work is addressing sort of generational issues. So I feel like my work is in conversation with them. Another artist I really love is Brian Belot.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? I know Bob just joined us, but does anyone have any questions? You're welcome to take yourself off mute.
I've got a question.
Excellent. Go for it.
Hey, Mark, it's Tim Schrager.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks.
I don't know if you and I have already had this conversation, but I don't remember the answer, so I'll ask. Remind me, when did your fascination with video games start? Were you a gamer when you were a kid? Did you come to it later in life, or you just like the subject matter and you're not a gamer?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily.
And I saw that Pac-Man in that piece you went by a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that does kind of look like a Pac-Man. No, I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but just like young kids in their teens, we used to go to the arcade after school. I never had a lot of money, so I never stayed very long because my money would go fast. But I think I like it more as a metaphor and using it as a form of a high-tech play, if you will. But also, when I was in fifth grade, we had a new Apple computer come to our school, and they had us doing programming and making visual drawings on the computer. And I think that really was what kind of solidified it, at least in the beginning. So I would say early 80s.
Do you still, kind of echoing back to that, time spent working from computer to in that screen, do you still utilize the computer screen at all, or do you work, do you do any sketches digitally and then that transfers to the canvas, or?
Yeah, I typically don't work that way, but I have certainly used technology. I've made drawings and then scanned them and then blown them up. I've made, digitally altered paintings and then printed them on canvas and altered them further. So I do use technology, but not so much in the finished project. It's more of just a way to kind of play and grow. I really like what paint does, and I feel like it gives it another dimension that you lose with actual technology or a digital screen. I'm not opposed to it. I just feel like painting it's bigger. It has a longer history, I believe.
Thank you. Do we have any other final questions? We're almost out of time, but I have to say I love the physicality of the work and how the paint changes from even within one canvas. You can have different textures and dimensionality, and even, in the dimensions of adding things to the canvas. But your eye is very busy working its way and navigating through like a screen. You're kind of searching for keys and clues and things like that. So if anyone has any other final questions, you're more than welcome to ask them or put them in the chat. But Marc, we're very grateful that you're there, and we're glad that you're back in the studio and able to keep working.
Me too. Definitely. I would like to add one more thing. Also, I think the color is something that we sort of take for granted with computer screens. And one thing I'll say about color is it changes throughout the day. With the screen, it doesn't so much because it's your ambient lighting that changes. But with actual paintings, the color on the paintings, depending on the light, it will change. And I also love that change because, as you live with something, things become more and more subtle, and you're able to, see those with that subtle change. So objects in real life do that. Excellent. And I wanted to thank you, Veronica, and everyone else at Contemporary for hosting. And thanks for all the viewers that came. It was great talking to you and great sharing my work with you.